The rain-soaked rescue the storm hit Helios Station with unexpected fury. Marcus Webb gripped the controls of his patrol cruiser as torrential rain battered the reinforced windshield, turning the neon-lit streets below into a blur of color and chaos. He had been working security contracts in this sprawling space station for 3 years now, ever since leaving the Earth Defense Corps, and he thought he had seen everything this place could throw at him. He was wrong. Through the driving rain, Marcus spotted a small figure huddled against the skeletal frame of an abandoned warehouse. His instincts, honed by 12 years of military service, screamed that something was wrong. Children didn't wander the outer districts alone, not unless something terrible had happened. This sector was controlled by smuggling rings and worse. The kind of people who preyed on the vulnerable. Marcus brought the cruiser down in a smooth arc, the repulsor engines sending waves of water splashing across the cracked pavement. As he climbed out, pulling his jacket tight against the downpour, he got his first clear look at the child. She wasn't human. Her skin was a pale violet shade that seemed to glow faintly even in the dim light, and her eyes were large and silver, filled with tears that mixed with the rain streaming down her face. She wore a simple blue dress that clung to her small frame, completely soaked through. Marcus approached slowly, keeping his movements gentle and non-threatening. He knew that alien children could be even more frightened of humans than human kids were of strangers. The girl watched him with those impossibly large eyes, trembling from cold and fear. "Hey there, Marcus," said softly, crouching down to her level. "Are you lost?" The child nodded, her lower lip quivering. "I cannot find my mama," she whispered in accented but clear English. "The market was so crowded, and I saw something shiny, and when I turned around, she was gone." He had a younger sister back on Earth, and the thought of any child alone and terrified in a place like this made his protective instincts surge. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Nyla," she said quietly. "Nyla Starweaver. It's a beautiful name." "I'm Marcus." He extended his hand slowly. "How about we get you out of this rain and find your mama together? I promise I'll keep you safe." Nyla hesitated for only a moment before placing her small, cold hand in his much larger one. Marcus helped her to her feet and guided her quickly to the cruiser. Once inside, he immediately activated the heating system and pulled an emergency thermal blanket from the storage compartment, wrapping it around her shoulders. "Thank you, Mr. Marcus," Nyla said, her teeth chattering as warmth began to seep back into her small body. "Just Marcus is fine." He programmed the navigation system to take them toward the central marketplace district. "Now, can you tell me more about where you last saw your mama? What does she look like?" As the cruiser lifted off and began gliding through the rain-slicked airways between towering station structures, Nyla described her mother with the earnest detail only a child could provide. Her mama was beautiful, with long platinum hair that shimmered like starlight and eyes the same silver as Nyla's own. She wore flowing clothes in shades of blue and purple, and she smelled like the night-blooming flowers from their homeworld. Marcus listened carefully, noting every detail while keeping his attention divided between the child and the sensors showing the route ahead. The central marketplace was 15 minutes away at current speed, but he pushed the cruiser a bit faster. Every instinct told him that a child like Nyla, clearly from a wealthy or at least comfortable family, based on the quality of her dress, would be a target for the wrong kind of people in the outer districts. "Marcus." Nyla's small voice broke through his thoughts. "Are you a soldier?" "I used to be," Marcus replied, glancing at her. "Now I help keep people safe in other ways, like a hero." Marcus smiled despite the situation. More like someone who tries to do the right thing when he can. An unexpected connection, the central marketplace of Helios Station was a sensory explosion even on quiet days. Today, with the storm driving people indoors, was packed with beings from dozens of species seeking shelter among the covered stalls and shops. Marcus guided Nyla through the crowd, his hand protectively on her shoulder as they navigated past merchants, selling everything from exotic foods to forbidden technology. "Do you recognize anything?" Marcus asked. Scanning the area with trained vigilance, Nyla pointed toward a section where fabric merchants displayed their wares. "We were looking at pretty cloths for Mama's work. She makes art with textiles." As they approached the textile quarter, Marcus noticed two rough-looking Craxian males watching them with interest that made his skin prickle. Their reptilian faces were unreadable to most humans. But Marcus had learned to read the body language of various species during his military years. These two were predators sizing up prey. "Stay very close to me, Marcus," murmured Nyla, positioning himself between her and the Craxians while trying to appear casual. Then, cutting through the marketplace noise, came a desperate cry. "Nyla." A woman pushed through the crowd with frantic urgency. She was Celestian like Nyla, with the same pale violet skin. Where the child was small and delicate, this woman was breathtaking. Her platinum hair flowed behind her like liquid silver, and her silver eyes blazed with a mixture of terror and hope. She wore an elegant dress of deep purple that somehow remained pristine despite her obvious distress. "Mama." Nyla broke free from Marcus's protective stance and ran to her mother. The woman dropped to her knees and swept her daughter into her arms, holding her with such fierce love that Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He had been alone for so long, focused on survival and work, that he had forgotten what it looked like when someone loved another person with their whole being. After a long moment, the woman looked up at Marcus, still holding Nyla close. Her silver eyes met his, and something passed between them, something Marcus couldn't name, but felt deep in his bones. It was like a current of electricity, warm and startling. "You found her," the woman said, her voice musical, even roughened with emotion. She stood gracefully, still holding Nyla's hand. "I have been searching everywhere. I thought..." Her voice broke slightly. "Thank you. Thank you so much. Marcus helped me, Mama," Nyla explained excitedly. "His flying cruiser has so many controls, and he gave me a warm blanket." The woman extended her free hand to Marcus. "I am Seraphina Starweaver. I owe you a debt I can never repay." Marcus took her hand, and that electric feeling surged through him again, stronger this time. Her skin was smooth and slightly cooler than human skin, but her grip was firm and warm with genuine gratitude. "Marcus Webb. I'm just glad I found her when I did." "The outer districts aren't safe for anyone alone." Seraphine's expression darkened slightly.
"I know."
"We should not even be on this station, but circumstances forced us here." Her eyes searched his face, as if trying to determine whether she could trust him with more information, before Marcus could respond. He caught movement in his peripheral vision. The two Craxians were moving closer, speaking into communication devices. His military instincts flared to full alert. "I don't want to alarm you," Marcus said quietly, "but we should move to a more secure location. Those two have been watching you since we arrived." Seraphina followed his subtle gesture toward the Craxians, and her face paled even further. "They have been following us for 2 days. I thought we had lost them in the storm. They work for someone?" "Yes." Her silver eyes met his again, filled with fear and something else, determination. "It is a long story, one I should not involve you in further, but..." She glanced down at Nyla, then back to Marcus. "Would you allow me to properly thank you? Perhaps dinner, somewhere safe where I can explain?" Marcus knew he should politely decline. He had learned the hard way that getting involved in other people's problems on Helios Station usually led to trouble. But looking at Seraphina, at the fear barely concealed behind her graceful composure, at little Nyla holding her mother's hand and looking up at him with trust in her silver eyes, he found himself unable to walk away. "I know a secure place," Marcus said. "My apartment building has good security. We can order food there." Relief flooded Seraphine's face. "Thank you, Marcus Webb. Truly," as Marcus guided them toward the marketplace's secured exits. He couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter in the rain was going to change everything. Dangerous Revelations. Marcus's apartment was modest but comfortable, located in one of the station's better-maintained residential sectors. The security here was genuine, not the corrupt kind that could be bought off, which was why Marcus had chosen it despite the higher cost. As they entered, Seraphina looked around with evident relief. "Nyla, sweetheart, why don't you explore while I talk with Marcus?" Seraphina suggested gently. The little girl nodded and wandered toward the window wall that showed a stunning view of the station's interior. where streams of ships moved like glowing fish through the artificial atmosphere. Marcus ordered dinner from a reputable vendor, choosing options that his research said were compatible with Celestian biology. While they waited, he and Serafina sat at his small dining table, and the weight of unspoken things hung heavy between them. "Tell me what's really going on," Marcus said gently. "Why are those Craxians after you?" Seraphine's hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. "My husband was a genetic researcher. He discovered that certain corporations were conducting illegal experiments, trying to replicate Celestian regenerative abilities for profit. When he tried to expose them, he was killed in what they called an accident." Marcus felt anger kindle in his chest. "And thereafter you and Nyla because... because we have evidence, and because Nyla inherited her father's unique genetic markers. They want to take her, study her." Seraphine's voice cracked. "I will not let them turn my daughter into a laboratory specimen." Without thinking, Marcus reached across the table and covered her hands with his. "They won't touch her. Not while I'm around." Serafina looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. "Why would you involve yourself in this?" "You owe us nothing beyond what you have already done. Because it's the right thing to do," Marcus said simply. "And because... He paused, trying to find words for the pull he felt toward this woman and her child. "Because I've spent 3 years keeping my distance from everyone, doing my job, and nothing more. I forgot what it felt like to actually care about someone else's fate." The delivery chime interrupted them. Marcus reluctantly released Seraphine's hands and went to retrieve their food. As they ate together, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Serafina told him about her art, how she wove stories into textiles using techniques passed down through generations of Celestian crafters. Marcus found himself talking about Earth, about the ocean he grew up near, about his sister who still sent him messages even though he rarely responded. Nyla eventually curled up on Marcus's couch. Exhausted from the day's events, Serafina covered her with a blanket, and when she returned to the table, the energy between her and Marcus had shifted. The fear and desperation had eased, replaced by something warmer, more intimate. "I have not felt this safe in months," Serafina admitted quietly. "Not since before my husband died." "How long ago was that?" 8 months. Her silver eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I have been running ever since, trying to protect Nyla while searching for someone who could help us." Marcus moved closer, drawn by an impulse he didn't fully understand. "You found someone, did I?" Seraphine's gaze held his. "Or did I simply encounter another person who will disappear from our lives once the immediate danger passes?" "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said, and he meant it with a certainty that surprised him. Serafina reached up and touched his face, her cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "Your species has such warmth. Not just physical temperature, but something else. And energy, I feel it too," Marcus admitted. "From the moment I touched your hand in the marketplace, like electricity, but pleasant. Celestions can sense life energy," Serafina explained softly. "Yours is particularly strong, vibrant. It calls to me in ways I did not expect." Marcus covered her hand with his, pressing it against his cheek. "Is that why I can't seem to think straight when you're close?" Serafina smiled, a real smile that transformed her face from merely beautiful to absolutely radiant. "Perhaps we are both affected." She leaned forward, and Marcus met her halfway. Their lips touched, and that electric current he had felt before surged through his entire body. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, but it quickly deepened as they discovered how perfectly they fit together despite their different origins. When they finally parted, both were breathing harder. Seraphine's silver eyes had darkened to the color of storm clouds, and her cool skin had warmed noticeably where they touched. "This is probably a terrible idea," Marcus murmured, though he made no move to pull away. "The best ideas often are," Serafina replied, her fingers threading through his hair. They kissed again, slower this time, savoring the connection. Marcus had been with people before, but nothing had ever felt like this. So right, so inevitable. It was as if finding Nyla in the rain had been fate's way of bringing him exactly where he needed to be. From the couch, Nyla stirred slightly in her sleep, and they reluctantly drew apart. "She needs her mother," Marcus said. "She does." Serafina stood but kept hold of his hand. "But perhaps her mother needs someone too." The fight for family. Marcus woke before dawn to the soft chime of an emergency alert on his personal communicator. He carefully extracted himself from where he and Serafina had fallen asleep on his couch, her head resting on his shoulder, and checked the message. His blood ran cold. His security contact at the station docking authority had sent a priority warning. A corporate security team with dubious credentials had just been granted access to the residential sector manifest, specifically searching for Celestian arrivals. Serafina. Marcus gently shook her awake. We need to move. Now. She was instantly alert, her survival instincts honed by months of running. They found us. They will soon. Marcus was already moving, pulling up schematics at the station on his datapad. I have a friend who owes me a favor. Someone who can get you and Nyla on a transport to Earth. The Terran Protectorate has strict asylum laws. They'll keep you safe. Earth. Serafina moved to wake Nyla. But that means leaving you. So I'll follow once I make sure you get out safely. Marcus pulled emergency supplies from his closet, things he had kept from his military days just in case. Right now, we need to move. They made it out of the apartment, into the maintenance corridors before the corporate security team arrived at Marcus's door. He led them through a maze of service tunnels that most station residents didn't even know existed, Nyla riding on his back while Serafina stayed close behind. Where did you learn these routes? Serafina asked as they navigated through a narrow passage. Military training. Always know your exits. Marcus paused at an intersection, checking his datapad for patrol patterns. Clear this way? They'd almost reached the secure docking bay where Marcus's contact waited when footsteps echoed behind them. Marcus handed Nyla to Serafina and drew the plasma pistol he had concealed under his jacket. Keep moving, he ordered. Bay 47. My friend's name is Rodriguez. Tell him I sent you. Marcus? No, Serafina protested. I'll catch up. Go. He pushed them forward and turned to face whoever was following. 3 Craxian mercenaries rounded the corner. Weapons drawn. Marcus didn't hesitate. Years of combat training took over as he used the narrow corridor to his advantage, making their numbers irrelevant. His first shot dropped the lead mercenary. The second attacker lunged, but Marcus sidestepped and used the creature's own momentum to send it crashing into the wall. The third Craxian was smarter, staying back and trying to get a clear shot. Marcus grabbed a maintenance panel and hurled it, forcing the mercenary to duck. Then he ran, counting on speed rather than continuing the fight. He caught up with Serafina and Nyla just as they reached Bay 47, Rodriguez. A grizzled former Marine had a fast courier ship warming up. Webb. You always bring interesting problems, Rodriguez said, ushering them aboard. I need you to get them to Earth. Directly to Commander Bishop at Terran Defense Headquarters, Marcus explained quickly. She'll grant them asylum. What about you? Rodriguez asked. I'll create a distraction, make them think we went another direction. Marcus turned to Serafina, who had tears streaming down her face. Hey, don't cry. I'll be right behind you. You're lying, Serafina said, reading him easily. You plan to stay and face them. Akus cupped her face in his hands. I plan to make sure you and Nyla are safe. That's all that matters, Papa Marcus. Nyla clung to his leg. When had she started calling him that? The word hit him like a physical blow, sweet and painful at once. Marcus crouched down and hugged the little girl. You be brave for me, okay? Take care of your mama. You promised you would not leave us. Nyla sobbed. I'm not leaving. I'm just taking a different ship. Marcus looked up at Serafina. Trust me. Serafina pulled him to his feet and kissed him desperately, pouring everything she felt into that moment. When they parted, she pressed something into his hand, a small crystal pendant. Celestian tradition. When you give someone your heartstone, you are bound to them across any distance. Marcus closed his fingers around it. I'll see you on Earth. You better, Serafina said fiercely. Because I love you, Marcus Webb, and I will not lose someone else I love. The words hit him harder than any weapon. I love you too, he said, surprised by how easily the truth came. Both of you. Rodriguez fired the engines. We need to go now. Marcus stepped back as the ship sealed. Through the viewport, He saw Serafina holding Nyla, both of them watching him. He pressed his hand against the crystal pendant, and somehow he knew she felt it. The ship launched, and Marcus immediately triggered the station-wide emergency alerts, claiming a reactor breach in a completely different sector. As corporate security scrambled to respond, he disappeared into the maintenance tunnels, leading them on a chase away from Bay 47, a new beginning 3 months later. Marcus stood on a beach on Earth, watching the sun set over an ocean he hadn't seen since he was 18. The water was just as blue as he remembered, but everything else had changed. The corporate security team had chased him for 2 weeks through Helios Station before he finally managed to slip away on a cargo hauler. By the time he reached Earth, Commander Bishop had already granted Serafina and Nyla full asylum, with protections that would make any attempt to take them a declaration of war against the Terran Protectorate. Marcus had submitted his resignation from the security contractor company immediately. That life, the isolation and danger, held no appeal anymore. He had something better to come home to now. There you are. Seraphine's voice was warm as she approached across the sand, Nyla running ahead of her. Papa Marcus. Nyla crashed into him, and he scooped her up, spinning her around as she giggled. She had started calling him that on the ship to Earth, and neither he nor Serafina had discouraged it. The title felt right, natural. How was art class? Marcus asked, setting her down. Mama taught me how to weave stories into cloth like Celestine crafters, Nyla said excitedly. Want to see? After dinner, Serafina said, reaching them. She slipped her hand into Marcus's, the touch still sending that pleasant electric current through him. Did you finalize the flight school position? I did. Marcus smiled. Turns out they need instructors for the new multi-species pilot training program. The pay's decent, and more importantly, I'll be home every night. They walked along the beach together, Nyla running ahead to chase the waves. Serafina leaned against Marcus's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her waist, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. Do you ever regret it? Serafina asked quietly. Giving up the excitement of contractor work? Marcus looked at Nyla playing in the surf, then at the woman beside him. The one who had somehow become his entire world in just 3 months? Not for a second. I spent years just surviving, keeping everyone at arm's length. I thought that was strength. And now? Now I know that the real courage is letting people in, building something that matters. He turned to face her fully. I love you, Serafina. I love Nyla. This, right here, is everything I never knew I needed. Seraphine's silver eyes shimmered with tears, but they were happy ones. When I gave you my heart stone, it was not just tradition. In Celestian culture, it means I chose you as my life partner. Marcus pulled the crystal pendant from under his shirt, where he had worn it every day since she gave it to him. I know. Rodriguez told me on the trip back. I had him help me find this. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a matching pendant. I might not be Celestian, but I can still choose you too. Serafina laughed through her tears as he fastened the pendant around her neck. Then she kissed him, there on the beach with the sunset painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. And Marcus knew with absolute certainty that finding one lost child in the rain had been the beginning of the greatest adventure of his life. Mama. Papa Marcus. Come see. Nyla called from the water's edge. They joined her. And together they watched as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there was Helios Station, and beyond it, the vastness of space filled with countless worlds and possibilities. But Marcus no longer felt the pull of that life. His adventure now was here on Earth, with his family. The one he had found in the most unexpected way. Through an act of simple kindness on a rain-soaked night as they walked back toward their small coastal home, Nyla between them holding both their hands. Marcus realized that sometimes the greatest heroism wasn't about fighting battles or taking risks. Sometimes it was about choosing love, choosing family, and choosing to build something beautiful from the chance encounters that fate placed in your path, the rain that had brought them. Together was long past, but the connection it sparked would last forever.